Today we're discussing the manures and fertilizers. What is the manure? The manure add a bulk quantities of the improve of physical condition of the soil for the maintenance of soil fertility. The plant nutrients present in the soil applied in manures are liberated available from the after they are decomposed by soil microflora. Manures including the bulky of organic manures, concentrated organic manures, green manure crops, mainly bulky organic manures also. These organic raw materials are used to maintain the organic matter content of the soil and to improve the physical condition of the soil, thereby the increasing water holding capacity of the sandy soils and to the open the clay soils. Organic matters include the in this category is the farmed manure FIM. This form is the most commonly used the organic manure in India. Farmed manure consists of the decomposed mixture of the cattle dung, urine, the bending material of ferments, the straw and the plant stalks fed to the cattle and the other domestic wastes like the ash, sweeping, collected and dumped into the pit of the heaped in the corner of the backyard. Factors influencing of the quality of the composition of the farmed manure are source of manure, food of the animal, age and the condition of the animal, functions of the animal, nature of the bending of the material, mode storage of the preservation. Addition of ammonia farmed manures contributes the largely in the soil improvement of the following ways, three ways. One is the improves the soil physical condition, increase the water holding capacity of the soil, and stimulate the microbial activity necessary for the use of the plant nutrients. The use of the manure alone may not the cause of the imbalance of the plant nutrients as it is the estimate that will decompose the sperm contains an average of the 0.5% of the nitrogen, 0.2% of the phosphate, 0.5% of the K2O. The soils, the bulky organic manures must be used along with the superphosphate and other fertilizers. Farm compost, farmhouse and the cattle shed wastes of all types of are used in the preparation of compost and the other type of the bulky organic manures. They are the two recommended methods of the composting waste organic materials. They are the heap method and pit method. Farm litter also compost contain 0.5% of the nitrogen, 0.15% of the phosphate, 0.5% of the K2O. Heap method, the normal practice of the strong during the litter in expose the heaps above the ground is defective and leads the great losses of the mineral ingredients. Used is the lost into no attempt in the made either the collective in a tank of the soak of the building litter and then spread in the floor of the cattle shed. Both these the losses can be reduced the consider the improved methods of pit and the trench method. Trench of the suitable size of the 6 meter long, 1.5 broad, and the 1 meter depth deep are the constructed. All the available dry litter and the other material from the farm are spread daily on the floor of the cattle shed. In the evening of observation of the urine, each morning urine is soaked litter with method. Town compost method. The town refuse or waste consists of the of night soil, sewage, sludge, shit, and the dustbin refuse bacteria waste. The waste contain the nutrient elements like the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Large-scale combusting of urban refuse, the night soil has been taken by the many municipalities in India. This is affected by filling properly constructed trenches with the successive layers of night soil, town refuges, and the earth. The compost, which is well decomposed and ready for the use of the manure, contains 1.4 of the nitrogen, 1% of the phosphate, and 1.4 of the K2O. This composed and ready to use the manure value indicates the town compost richer for fertilizers value compared to the from the manure. Night soil and odorate. This manure is obtained from the women excrement by the method known as the odorate system, and hence is the material is also called as the odorate. Night soil or odorate is richer in manurial values. The compost to farmed manure or the compost because it contains 1.2 to 1.3 nitrogen, 0.8 to 1% of the phosphate, 0.4 to 0.5 of the K2O, fresh weight. Sewage and sludge. Sewage disposal systems are sewage disposal systems are operated by the many municipal bodies and the big sites of India. It has a solid it has a solid portion, technically known as sludge, and a liquid portion, commonly known as the sewage water. Sewage contains the large quantities of the plant nutrients that are used for the growing crop plants by the operating sewage pump. The array sewage is treated to remove the sludge portion. The settled sludge is allowed under the oxidation. It provides an activated sludge containing 2 to 2.5% and 1 to 1.2 phosphate, 0.4 to 5%, which can be readily applied in the soil. Green manure, the practice of the cultivating of quick growing crop and plowing it under the to incorporate into the soil called green manure. It improves the physical condition as well as the fertile status of the soil. The green manure crops are grown either as the pure crop or as a shadow crop within the main crop and buried in the same field, which is to be green manure. This is known as the green manuring inside. Both legumes and non-legumes are used in the green manures crops. The most common green manure crops are the Sunham, Crotalaria gentiana, Dahlia, Sesbonia leucadena, Philipperasra, Aciolus, Tribulus. Green leaf manure refers to turning into the soil. Tender green twigs collected from the waste ants nearby the forest that the spread in the field and the incorporate to the soil. Green manure have the marked residual effect also, usually 30 to 50% increase the crop yielding released by the green manuring. The common shrubs of the Sesame species, Mungamia pinnata and Glacidia malcota, advantage of green manuring. It adds the organic matter soil and the microorganisms to the soil are stimulated. It improves the soil structure, thereby the improving the water holding capacity of the soil. The green manure crop utilizes the nutrients from the lower depths of the soil and adds to the topmost layer of the soil, which is incorporated. The leguminous soil and adds the topmost topmost layer of the soil is the incorporated. The leguminous green manure crops fix the atmospheric nitrogen in the root nodules, which will be the utilized by the succeeding crops. It encourages the availability of certain other plant nutrients through the releasing organic acids. What are the disadvantages of the green manure? Under rain-fed conditions, the depletes of the soil moisture for the growth and decomposition of such as the extent succeeding crops are affected adversely unless there are the sufficient rains. Incidency of the pests and the disease may be increased due to the succulent nature of the crop. What are the good characteristics of the green manuring crop? The crops used for the green manuring should be have the following characters. It should be come up well even on the poor soils. It should give the large quantity of the green material within the very short period. Initially, it should be quick growing on the surface of the weeds. It should be have the well developed and fibrous root system so that the can utilize the nutrients from the lower depths of the soil. It should be succulent and decompose the quickly. Preferably should be low legume with the fixed atmospheric nitrogen. Concentrated the organic manures. In the concept of the organic manures, organic nature and the contain high percent of the major plant nutrients like the NPK composed to other organic manures. The common concentrated the organic manures such as the soil cakes, bread meal, fish manure, meat meal, and the wool waste are the made from the raw materials of animals or the plant origin. Oil cakes, both the types of the oil cakes, edible oil cakes, the suitable for the feeding of the cattle, and the non-edible oil cakes are applied to the soil. Oil cakes contain the large percentage of the organic ammonia that finally converts into the nitrate nitrogen. The manure is relatively slow acting the compared the fertilizers but supply the available nitrogen for the long period. These organic manures may also supply the small quantities of the minor elements needed by the plants. Blood meal completely dried in the powder blood collected from the slaughterhouses and the sold as the blood meal. It contains 10 to 12% of the nitrogen, 1 to 1% of the phosphate, 0.6 to 0.8 for the K2O. Best used by the mixing of the soil so that they may be distributed evenly in the soil. Meat meal made from the animal dried and converted in the meat meal. Meat meal contains the 10.5 nitrogen, 0.5 phosphoric acid, quick acting of the manure and effective for the all crops of the soil type. Fish manure. Fish manure or fish meal is the prepared from the non-edible fish, carcass of the fish, by drying and the crushing of the powder. Fish manure contains the 4 to 10% nitrogen, 3 to 9% of the phosphate, 0.3 to 1% of the K2O, like other concentrated organic material. Fish meal is quick acting in the soils. The manure often contains considerable liquid quantity of the salt due to the crude drying on the seaside. The salt is considered favorable to coconut tree. It is largely applied to the trees which grow along with the coast. Pond and Pono meal. This is another type of the dried powder organic manure derived from the bone and the half of the animals. Bone meal. Raw bone meal contains the 3 to 4% of the nitrogen, 20 to 25% of phosphate, 28 to 30% of the lime. Usually bones powdered before the applied to the soil. Fertilizers. The fertilizer applied the mainly increasing the supply one or more of the essential nitrogenous fertilizers. Fertilizers usually classified based on the particular plant nutrient from the principal constant. The fertilizer may be grouped into the nitrogenous fertilizers, phosphate fertilizers, and in the potassium fertilizers, complex fertilizers, are two or more the primary essential nutrients. Nitrogenous fertilizers. Nitrate fertilizers are obtained from the natural products, sodium nitrate or sodium nitrate, is a manufactured product from the synthetic ammonia. Nitrogen combines as nitrate with the other elements. Sodium nitrate with the 16% nitrogen and the calcium nitrate with the 15% of the nitrate. Example of such fertilizers. The nitrate fertilizers are the quickly this is dissociate in the soil solution, releasing the nitrate ion for the plant absorption, or there is also the increased danger of leaching of these fertilizers. Ammonia fertilizers, ammonium sulfate, ammonium chloride, ammonium phosphate, some examples of the nitrogenous fertilizers. The fertilizers are less rapidly utilized by the growing plants than the nitrate fertilizers. Ammonium fertilizers are much more resistant to the loss and by leaching. Ammonium sulfate, it contains 20 to 20.5% nitrogen, 3.7 of the sulfur. Crystalline salt completely dissolved in water, mixed by the clay and movements of the soils. Soon after the application, the ammonium is converted into the nitrate by nitrifying bacteria in the presence of the oxygen. This conservation is very rapid in India due to the high temperatures and the nitrogen becomes available to the crop. Soon after the application, rice crop prefers the ammonical form nitrogen, and hence ammonium sulfate is the most suitable for the rice crop. Ammonium chloride, it contains the 20 to 25% of nitrogen. The white and color and the possess the same properties of the ammonium sulfate. Nitrate to ammonium fertilizers. This group nitrogen fertilizers. Nitrogen is the present in the both ammonical. Ammonium sulfate nitrate, amide fertilizers, phosphoric fertilizers. These are the classified natural phosphates treated as the proceed the phosphate by product of phosphates and the chemical phosphates. The plant nutrient of all the phosphate fertilizers is expressed in the terms of the percentage of phosphorus pentoxide. The following is the account of the different phosphoric fertilizers. Rock phosphate. This occurs in the natural deposits of the rock in the USA, Morocco, the USR, Algeria, Brazil, Egypt. Rock phosphate contains the 25 to 30% of the calcium phosphate. The little rock phosphate is the directly as a fertilizer. Most of it is the manufacture of superphosphate and the other phosphate fertilizers can be applied to green manure crops and the crops grown in the acid soils. Superphosphate. Formerly, this was the produced by the treating bones with the sulfuric acid. It is now the manufactured largely by treating ground rocks. Single superphosphate, dicalcium phosphate, and the triple superphosphate. The phosphoric acid, the superphosphate, is the completely water soluble. The fertilizer is suitable for all the crops. It can be applied to all the soils. It contains 16% of the P2O5 phosphate and is used all over the world. Examples of the single superphosphate. Basic slag. Basic slag is the byproduct of the steel industry. Depending upon the phosphorus content of the iron ore, basic slag contains 6 to 20% of the P2O5. Basic slag is the describe the phosphate fertilizers because the alkaline reaction of phosphoric acid readily available in the plants. The advisable apply the heavy doses a month before investing in crops of the concern. Bonamine is available two forms, raw bonamine and steamed bonamine. Bonamine is as well as suited for the acidic soils and for long duration of the crops. It may be applied to the soil only at the time of the sowing or before sowing. Toxic fertilizers. Toxic fertilizers also are applied to the soils deficient in potash to supply the plants and potassium ion present in the solution absorbed by the potassium fertilizers. Common use of the muriate potassium and sulfuric potassium. Muriate of the potassium contains 50 to 63% of the K2O. It is easily soluble in water. K2O is readily available in plants. It is not lost from the soils by the leaching. Sulfate of the potash contains 48.2%. K2O and the dissolves the readily water in the becomes available in the plants. Immediately, food ashes contain the 5 to 6% of the K2O are applied for the crops. Other fertilizers. Compound fertilizers are multiple nutrient materials with the supply 2 or 3 plant nutrient simultaneously. Example, atmosphere provides the 16% of the nitrogen and 20% of the phosphate. Most often, mixed fertilizers also meet nutrient deficiencies in a more balanced way. Complete fertilization, mixture of all the three principles, nutrients and pK. Out of the time fertilizers in application. Fertilizers which are the solid form can be applied for the different ways. Broadcasting, the fertilizers spread the evenly in the uniformly over the entire field, either at planting time. Sunflower of the soil placement, deep placement of the subsoil placement are different methods of this category. Local placement in the method fertilizers are incorporated to the soil close to seed or plant. Various methods of the generally followed by the contact of the placement, bond placement, pellet application in the site dressing. In the fertilizers is liquid form. The following are the foliar application of the suitable fertilizer solution. Direct application of the liquid fertilizers to the soil and the application liquid fertilizer through the irrigation water. Biofertilizer. The term biofertilizer and the nutrients in the plant growth and which is used for the biological origin. The agriculture inputs have the mineral value and are created by the microbial process. They can be appropriately called microbial inoculants. For example, some bacteria, bluegreen algae fix the atmospheric nitrogen if they are the inoculated to the soil and established the paddy fields. Preparation containing this, the microorganism can also be considered as a bacterial level. Different bacterial biofertilizers nitrogen are the most important. Is the peat, lignite, the soil-based the preparation containing the effective strains of rhizobium, the specific for the different legumes crops in equity members. The other two bacterial fertilizers are Azotobacter and the Phosphobacterium. Azotobacter is the preparation of the containing cells, say Azotobacter, Crocomium, Cron agar. Phosphobacterium is known colony based the preparation contains Bacillus phosphoficum. A great understanding associates the symbiosis between the cross and the azoospermia nitrogen fixer due to the practical applications seed inoculants to the cells and developing of the fertilizers. The concentrated preparation of the dried cells of the blue-green algae are also useful by enhancing nitrogen content in the rice soil. Soil amendments. Soil amendments are the materials such as the lime, gypsum, sawdust, and sulfur soil conditioner that are the added to the soil influence plant growth. A change in the soil reaction pH or improve the physical condition of the soil. The term soil amendment is the used the most commonly for the added the materials other the fertilizers. Agriculture limiting materials, for example, supply of calcium, sometimes magnesium, nutrients, elements, soil amendments are the three types. Materials of the corrupting acids, six soils. Materials for the corrupting alkaline soils. The soil aggregate agents or soil conditions stabilize the aggregated form of the granule structure. Addition of the any compound contain calcium alone or both calcium magnesium. This is the capable reducing the acidity of the soil, generally known as the liming brown limestone. Reclaim problem soils like gypsum, chemical amendments like the gypsum and sulfur, iron sulfate, limestone, stable different soil condition. Chemicals such as the polyvinyl, polycrystals, tomes, lignin, derivatives, and the silicate of the soil conditions add the natural physical condition of the soil. The menus and fertilizers. Next is the tillage and weed control. Resume of the tillage. Tillage, the practice of the modifying state of the soil to provide the favorable condition for the growing crops or agriculture. Development of tillage is believed that the earliest tillage was practiced with the digging stick. In the course of the time, the digging stick is developed into the manually drawn foot plow. At the bulwark from the plow was evolved. Green and Roman farmers believed that the dosing and the mixing of the soil improves the fertile status of the soil. The maximum number of tillage operations were practiced in the recent past. Usefulness of the practicing of the maximum tillage operations was tested. It was exaggerated as the tillage operations required for the specific purpose. It necessary tillage operation may not be much when the useful of the cultivation increases. What are the objectives of the tillages? The main tillage practice to prepare the seed bed, to control the weeds, to improve the soil structure, to improve the soil aeration, dry the soil, to control the pests and the diseases, to improve the roots penetration, to incorporate crop produce and the organic matter. Seed bed preparation tillage of the seed bed preparation. Well prepared feed for the seed bed in soft in the surface of the soil necessary for the good generation and seedling emergencies. Ploughing to dry to wet or the compact. Weed control. This is one of the most beneficial and primary of the tillage. Weeds competitive with crop for the moisture, nutrients, light and space. Some weeds secret the toxic substance through the root soil, mm, soil nutrients of the seedling emergency. To lose of the soil with the many large spaces may affect soil impact, seedling oil. When there is no sufficient moisture of the soil, thus comforting the soil to seed phosphate zone and leaving the surface soil with the condition of the desirable weed control. This is one of the beneficial and the primary roles of the tillage. It is completed with the crop for the moisture, nutrients, light, and the space. The weeds secrete the toxic substances through their roots into the oil, regarding of the growth or the killing of the crop plant. Weeds at the seedling stage can be controlled by the efficiently through proper timing, soil structure, tillage through the soil structure under the conditions of the optimal moisture. Rough surface due to the tillage are more so clay soil will increasing the soil drying, drying of the flood soil, the exposing of the sunrise in the summer increases the availability of the some nutrients. Soil drying the method that reduce the total microorganisms population rapidly soon after the heating, notifying the bacteria more resistant to drying. Pest control, root penetration, crop residues, the organic manures, making this the proper tillage implements the help in the farming, the incorporation of the crop residues, the organic manures. These organic manures add the more humus and improve the tile, making the crop residues and organic manures, making use of the proper tillage in the implements of help in the farming the incorporation of the crop residues and the organic manures. The organic materials add more humus and improve the fertile status of the soil. Preparatory tillage cultivation, tillage operations, types of the flowers, indigenous or country flowers. These are the indigenous and the country flowers. These are the indigenous country flower. These are the bullock drawn the implements of the made wood. These are the cheap and simple in construction. This can be really made with the local available wood. So this the diagram is the indigenous flow, the handle, first one is next one is the beam, body shoe, and next one is the shade. Body is the vital foundation of the flow, and which is the attached to the all other parts of the Bottom of the portion is the single angle of the very vertical part of the weeds, shaped that tapering upwards in the end of the penetration of the soil. The share of the 2.5 to 4 centimeters broad, 1.2 to 0.1 thickness, thick and the 30 to 40 centimeters long. This is fixed upon the top of the penetrating end of the body and the grow with the U-shaped cells. The shear is the cutting in the part of the flow is the requires the replacement of the occasional in the way of types of the wooden flows. The Madaka, dryland flow, wetland flow, moldboard flows. Okay, moldboard landslide. What are the country or indigenous flow and moldboard flows? The difference between the country indigenous flow only sits at the soil, not only sits but the inverts the soil. Unplugged land left between the successive furrows. No unplugged land is left. Opens the V-shaped furrow. Opens the rectangular furrows in the moldboard flow. Multi-purpose implements. That is the multi-purpose implements can be operated under the varying the conditions of the soil moisture. Can be operated under the exact moisture condition only. Very little scope of the adjustment of the depth of the furrow and the scope of the width adjustment. Perfect adjustment to be made depth in the width of the furrow require more drought and require less drought. Other types of the plows, disc plows, turnquist and reversible or one-way plow, subsoil plow, ridge plow. These are the all are the second drill or the guru. The secondary tillages operations. Types of the harrows, disc harrow. The bullock is drawn in the disc harrow. Consists of two sets of the disc apart on two axes and the reversible together with the axis. The disc cut up through the soil, pulverized of the clouds, tracted on the disc harrow also permanently. Blade arrows, butakas, and next one the cultivator, levelers, other implemented in the cultivation, preparation of preparatory cultivation. Pond farmer, next one wetland woodler, operated with the implementation for the intercultivation. Hand hoes, the hand hoes are the tools and use the intercultivation of the cross by human labor. Japanese rotor weeder, the Japanese rotor weeder. Star weeder, it is operated by the single man. It is useful for the intercultivation of the row crops for bedding and the mulching of the topsoil between the crop rows. It consists of the two sets of the setted or discs of the 15 centimeter diameter mounted on the two axes. The front of the set comprises of the four-star shape and the handle the fixed with the frame. It covers about the 20 across, 2 across per day. The star-shaped disc also loosen the soil. The cutting of the blade cuts the soil. It's about the 2 to 3 centimeters depth. It, it saves the about the 50% of the labor. Mulatra and intercultivators implements the Danti, Hicham Kuntaka, it's another Murno Kuntaka. మెల్ట మెట్లగుంటక. Tilth. Tilth is the physical or condition of the soil suitable for the production of the crops. This condition of the facilities the better seed germination and the crop growth, free movement of the air and the moisture of the soil, rapid infiltration of the water and the holding of the maximum amount of the soluble water. The fourth one is also your teeth and the tillage. The fifth unit is the weeds and the weed control. Farm activities are the designed to favor of the certain plants and animals that provides us food and fiber. But the same activities may also provide the good growing the condition for the other plants and animals that is harm them. These living things are the competitive with the for food and the fibrous and attack directly to the call pests. Pests are can be put into the four main groups: insects, plasmid, tricks, and the spiders, and snails and sludges, vertebrates, birds and rodents, weeds and plant disease agents. So the cheaper will be on the weeds. Mm. Weed, any plant vegetation excluding the fungi interfering with the objectives or the requirements. The people, plant growing the where it is not the desired, plant out of place, plant whose the economic value has not been the discovered, plant that is the extremely noxious, useless, unwanted, and the poisonous. The meaning of the weed depends on the human activities and differ from the person to other person. Factors affecting of the competitive availability of the weeds, enormous seed production, and next one is the vegetative reproduction, seed dominance in long tree, and seed dispersal, adaptability. Classification of weeds is the based on the lifespan, annuals, and the biennials, decennials. Annuals, biennials, perennials. Annual, these are the small helps with the shallow the roots and the weak stems of the propagating by seed. This is the produce the abundance. After seedling, the annuals die away from and seeds germinate to the next generation. Final weeds are the less in number. They generally flower and seed in the second season and the die. Some of the may flower in the first season itself. Alternaria acantha, the leaf for the more than 1 year, but not more than the 2 years. Examples: Linlandia umbellifera, Ipomea repinus, perennials. These are the two types. Herbs and shrubs. This is well adapted to the withstand of the adverse condition. These species are propagated by seeds and also by underground roots and suckers. The food stored in the underground parts of the helps in the growth of the fresh shoots, whereas the condition of the favorable examples Cyprus rotundus, Colonus arvensis, Aristolochia christia, Avitlon indicum. Woody plants, these plants will be usually usually competing with the desirable grass and the grazing plants in Crista, Alberta Indica, based on the angiospermous groups. The weeds also classified in the accordance to the two paired angiospermous groups, that is the monocotyledons, narrow level, and dicotyledons is the broad level. Narrow, le- narrow leveled weeds, this term is the members of the cross weeds, which includes the members of the Brahmini, Cyperaceae, and Poaceae. This may also include other monocotyledon plants. The plants are usually low growing of the nevertheless. The, the apical meristome of the was protected by the sheathing leaf bases, which act as the effective barriers of the suicidal control the measures. Broad level weeds. These are the members of the dicotyledon groups. Annuals. These are the quick grown the complete the tricycle within the single season. They produce the large quantities of the seeds. The very short period and biennials require 2 years from the germination of the flower. The seed production is the first year of the seedling develops within the study of the root system. Perennials, based on the special features, the poisonous weeds, Tetra fastidiosa, Puranum ungarum, Ramnia somnifera, Lochera pecilia, parasitic weeds. Parasitic weeds also, weeds are the degeneration of the species and mainly then divided into the green metal of leaves. They have the efficient means of the propagation. Stems of the parasites, Cuscuta campestris, dodar weed, Kestia philophilus. This contains the more chlorophyll in the Cuscuta leaves of the Doranthus species. Discum, fruit parasites, Varabanki and Striga. Pond water and aquatic weeds. These are the places, the tanks and the ponds and the characters. Weed control methods. Using the clean up the seeds. Don't feed the cattle anything having the viable weed seeds. When it having the viable weeds, then they should be not be used to. The cattle should be not be the permitted to move the directly from weed infested the fields area. Clean the implements such as the harvest, the cleaners, tractors. Avoid is the gravel and the sand soil from the weed infected area. Keep the corns in the fields of the fence lines. Mechanical methods, hand peeling methods, hand waste, tillage, tillage the moving feed, the cropping and competition. Chemical methods, herbicides, advantage the herbicides can be applied for the any season. Control of the early stage, kill the weeds. These are the herbicides, classification of the herbicides. Some of the classification of herbicides based on the chemical group. Alphotic and group is the alphotic, the alphan and herbicide TCA. Amides and stomides, alkali and fertilizer, metallurgy program and purple. Arsenides, benzoic acid, phenol, characterized ureas, diurin, all are the pesticides in the based on the different types of the pesticides based on the chemical group. These are the weeds and weed control. Thank you.